Welcome back. Today, we're diving into two really ancient systems of knowledge that make a pretty bold promise to give you a map to a hidden reality, a world that exists right alongside our own, just beyond what we can see and touch.
I mean, think about it. What if ancient traditions didn't just leave us stories, but actual maps? Not for treasure or land or sea, but for unseen worlds. Detailed guides for navigating the cosmos, the spirit, and maybe even the deepest, most hidden parts of your own mind. Well, today, we're going to explore two of them.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about this whole idea of a search for hidden maps. Then, we'll get into our two big examples, the inner journey of Hermetism and the cosmic journey found in the Book of Enoch. After that, we'll compare this so-called forbidden knowledge, and finally, we'll ask the big question. What can these ancient maps still show us today?
You know, for basically all of recorded history, people have had this persistent feeling that there's more to reality than what our five senses tell us. And to try and make sense of it all, they created these incredibly intricate systems. You could call them metaphysical maps to chart those unseen worlds. Today, we're digging into two of the most detailed and honestly, most mysterious of these maps. Okay, so let's dive into our first map. Now, this one doesn't chart the stars or distant galaxies. It charts the inner world of human consciousness. It comes from this really fascinating tradition called Hermeticism, and it's all about a path of deep, personal self-transformation.
So the main guidebook for this inner journey is a work known as the Kybalion. It's said to be this secret teaching, this core philosophy of Hermetism, passed down from teacher to student for generations. This is going to be our primary key for this whole inner exploration.
At the absolute heart of Hermeticism is this one single, incredibly powerful idea. As above, so below. The concept here is that the laws of the entire universe, the macrocosm, are perfectly mirrored right inside of us, the microcosm. So, if you can truly understand yourself, you can understand the whole cosmos. And look, this isn't just some vague, fuzzy spiritual concept. It's laid out as a highly structured evolutionary fast lane that takes you through 22 distinct stages of awareness. And this framework, called the Arcana model, well, you probably know it by a different name, the major arcana of the tarot deck.
This journey is mapped across three really distinct levels of our being. The first 7 cards, or stages, are all about mastering your spirit and your mind. The next 7 deal with the world of the soul and emotions. And the final group? That's about integrating the aura, or the psyche. The whole point is to become a completely whole, integrated person.
Okay, so we've looked inward. Now we're going to totally flip the script and look outward. We're moving from a map of the self to a map of the entire cosmos. And this one comes from a very controversial and for a long time a totally lost scripture, the Book of Enoch.
Now, to really get why the Book of Enoch is such a big deal, you have to remember that the Bible isn't just one book. It's more like a library. And like any library, an editor had to decide which books made it onto the shelf. There was a whole pool of other text floating around back then, like the Book of Jasher and the Book of Enoch, that were really popular and even got referenced by biblical authors. But they just didn't make the final cut.
And the Book of Enoch is probably the most famous of all these lost books. For centuries, it was treasured by many Jewish and early Christian groups. But eventually, influential church fathers, guys like Hilary and Augustine, basically declared it a fake. And just like that, it pretty much vanished from the Western world for over 1,000 years.
So what on earth is in this book that made it so controversial? Well, at its core is this absolutely wild story about the Watchers. This was a group of angels who came down to Earth, started teaching humanity all this forbidden knowledge. We're talking spell casting, astrology, even how to make weapons. Then they took human wives, who gave birth to a race of giants, and the whole thing just descends into chaos and corruption. It gets so bad that God has to step in and decree a massive judgment to clean the whole mess up. And here's the kicker. We know for a fact this book was a huge deal back then. How? Because it's quoted, word for word, right there in the New Testament in the book of Jude. I mean, you can't get more concrete proof than that. It shows that early Christian writers saw it as an authoritative text. Okay, so we have our two maps. One charts the inner landscape of the soul, the other charts the outer landscape of the cosmos.
Now let's put them side by side and really see what this forbidden and forgotten knowledge is all about. And wow, the contrast is pretty stark, right? The Hermetic map points inward. It's a psychological journey all about self-mastery. But the Enochian map, it points outward. It's this sweeping, epic, cosmic history that ends in divine judgment. One is trying to co-create with the universe by building up the self. The other is focused on righteousness in the face of a divine plan for the entire world.
And this is what's so fascinating. For all their differences, the things they have in common are absolutely stunning. Both of them insist that reality is way more complex than it looks, that it's layered with different planes or worlds. For both, getting your hands on secret or forbidden knowledge is key. And ultimately, they both offer what we started with, a map to navigate this crazy existence and reach some kind of higher state of being.
So, this all leads us to the big question, doesn't it? Why should any of this matter to us now? In the 21st century, why should we care about these strange, ancient, and honestly kind of bizarre maps to unseen worlds?
Well, I think their real value isn't about whether they're literally true or not. Instead, you can see them as powerful artifacts of human consciousness. They show us this timeless, fundamental human need to find order in chaos, to create meaning, and to map out our own place in a universe that can feel incredibly vast and unknown.
So in the end, whether you're charting the inner world like a hermeticist or the cosmos like Enoch, what these systems really reveal is our deep, shared need for maps to help us navigate the unknown. Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. What are the maps that you use to navigate your world today? Are they scientific, philosophical, religious, or maybe something else entirely? Thanks for joining me.